Alrighty. So today I'm going to share with you on learning to see through the eyes of Jesus. So I'm going to read Psalm 139, verses 13 through 18. It says, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! If you could count them, they are more than the sand. I awake and I am still with you." So when I was thinking about this, seeing through the eyes of Jesus, I was thinking about my own struggles and how often I view people in a way that's not how the Lord views them, and therefore my words and my actions towards them are not what the Lord would want for me to put towards them. And so I was thinking for the first verses, talking about how every one of us was made uniquely in our mother's womb. The Lord had every part of you planned out, and we're so easy to think that about ourselves, but then we see that about someone else, and we're just well, he must have been asleep for half of it, because, this isn't what I think they should be made like. And so, we're so willing to apply those things to our own lives, but then we see someone else, and, that's hard for us to understand that they are also perfectly unique in the Lord's eyes. And when we do that, we acquire this judgment of them, they're not how I would want them to be, they're not doing this properly, and, that's not what the Lord has. And, a lot of it has to do, we talk about the different cultures every time, and, we talk about how there's so many different cultures here, the different worldviews that people have here. And out of those judgments come words and actions. And I've been struggling with this a lot recently, just, saying things and, instantly wishing I could just take them back. And, they weren't, huge, just, daggers or anything, but they were just, little things where I was I've, had a couple nights this month where I just, could not stop thinking about something I had said. And I was I just wish I could take that back. And, all of that could have been stopped by taking the time to view that person the way that the Lord had created them to be viewed. And so when it talks about how every one of our days was written before a single one came to pass, just thinking about the divine placement of all of you here, we know that, Abby spoke on unity, and I think that's something we're going to be constantly working towards. But the fact is, you may not get along with someone here, but that's okay, because the Lord knew how he made you, and he knew how he made them, and you're supposed to be here together for a purpose. And although we're surrounded by what we seem to think are difficult people, God knows, because he made them and you are considered difficult to some of the people here. And so it talks about how vast his thoughts are for us. They outnumber the grains of sand. And his thoughts versus our thoughts. And just that sometimes we get someone on our mind, and sometimes you think that I just can't, this person, they're just constantly coming up, and you just can't stop thinking about it. And the Lord is thinking about them just as much, but in such better ways, in such more positive, uplifting ways. He loves them so much. And just viewing our thoughts, considering whether the negativity we're coming up with in our minds are going to benefit anyone. They're not helping you any, because if you say them out loud, you're going to hurt someone, and you're going to regret them, I often do. And if you keep them in your mind, you're just going to be so bogged down. And just the positivity that can come from viewing them as someone who is unique and is not like you, and is growing just like you are. And when those negative thoughts come to life, all that they provide are division, bitterness, and gossip, and the struggle to obey. And when I say the struggle to obey, if someone says something mean against you, so I came up with this idea in my brain yesterday, because it wouldn't ever be true. So Tanner, if Tanner were to be super mean to me and then ask me to make dinner for him, I'd be no, I'm not going to make dinner for you. I'll make dinner for me. Maybe I'll make myself a frozen pizza or something. But when someone is when you create those negative thoughts and put them out loud, how much harder are you going to create it for someone to do what the Lord is asked of them. Not that, like, obviously for them, they're going to have to choose to obey the Lord, but, like, are we helping each other to be obedient by encouraging one another with our words? And then I was thinking about, during the spiritual week, Miss Barb was talking about the practicing. And I just thought that was so helpful. Like, what are you practicing? Well, I'm practicing with my words, because the regret that those create is, I mean, people are hurt forever. And, like, Miss Linda, I hopefully didn't hurt you by saying that you were loud. And just those things, like, things stick with us. And so Psalm 139, verse 23 and 24 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." And I know we can say so easily that we should be giving our thoughts to the Lord, but, like, what does that really look like? And, like, how do you fully do that? And I'm not entirely sure how you fully do it, obviously. But something my dad said to me the other day, which was really helpful, I guess, in my situation, was like, with what Christ has done, the only right we have is to give up our rights. And in giving up our own thoughts, we gain his thoughts, and we gain that perspective on the other people that we had not been seen through his eyes. And I just thought that was something that was really helpful. I mean, with what Abby was saying on unity, and what I think a lot of us can struggle with so many different personalities and so many different, I guess not so many different drivers, but, like, on the big top day when everyone is a boss, it seems like, and, like, you just feel, like, so overwhelmed with all these things going on. And, like, the Lord wants us to see everyone as he would want to see them, or how he does see them. And that is that he loves them, and we should be doing our best to love them as well. And so I also have with me a video today, because I was thinking about, seeing with our eyes, how the Lord can open our eyes to see just people in the way he loves them, but also how he can open blind eyes. And this summer, my dad went to Zimbabwe, and he didn't have a chance to share in chapel because he doesn't work here. But my church did some interviews with him, and so I have a video about an experience they had with opening blind eyes. So yeah, thank you.
We had a time of sharing the gospel at a local church where all the kids from a local school came over, and we were setting up to do eyeglass ministry to check people's eyesight for reading glasses. And this grandfather came in with 2 young kids, and the missionary that we were working with, he asked, he said, "Mr. Matt, you need to pray with these 2 young kids." And I asked him, I said, "Do you know what's wrong with them?" And he said, "I don't know, there's just something off." And we got setting up for doing eyeglasses, and I was helping the kids out with that. I ended up outside getting half of our team ready, to eat lunch while the other half was inside ministering. And one of the kids ran out to get me, and he said, "Mr. Matt, it's getting crazy in there." Well, the missionary had started praying for one of these young boys, and his body started doing some crazy convulsive things, and he needed deliverance. He needed to be set free. And we always have one person in what we call a prayer closet during times of ministry. So there was a young lady by the name of Danielle. She was over in the prayer closet and just praying. And so before I went back inside, I walked over and I said, "Danielle," I said, "I don't know what's going on, but there's 2 young boys in there who need your prayer. So if you would pray for them while we go in and pray for them, that would be awesome." And she's like, "Yeah, sure, I will do that." And as I walked away and I was walking into the church, I remember looking back and seeing Danielle just standing, facing away from me, but with her hands out to her sides. And it was just something that caught my attention. As I walked into the church, and Mr. Gosi, the missionary, he was praying for this young boy, and his body was just going back and forth, and he had his hands over his eyes. And I went up and I joined him. And we prayed over this young man, and we commanded devils to go in Jesus' name. And we prayed healing over him because he was blind. And after about 2-3 minutes of prayer, I just remember hearing in my spirit, "It is finished." So I declared, "It is finished" in Jesus' name, and his body stopped. And he opened his eyes. And I stepped back a couple feet and I said, "Can you see me?" And he says, "I can see you." So I held up 2 fingers and I said, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And he said 2. And so I stepped back about 5 feet and I did the same thing. I don't remember how many fingers I held up, but let's just say 4. So I held up and I said, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And he said 4. And so I walked to the back of the room, and I have a picture of that. It's pretty neat. And I'm all the way across the room, and he could see the whole length of the room. So the Lord set him free and restored his sight. So we actually prayed for his brother too, and he got delivered also. And I went back outside to let Danielle know what had happened, and she was out there just weeping. Her eyes were full of tears. And I said, "Danielle, what's going on?" And she said, "I have to tell you what happened." She said, "I started to pray." She said, "I closed my eyes, and 2 young boys walked up to me in a vision." She said, "I could see their faces." She said, "I reached out my hands, and I took each of them by the hand." She said, "And then Jesus appeared about 10 feet from her and walked up to her and looked her in the eye and said, 'These are my boys.'" And Jesus took each of the boys by hand, and he turned around and he started walking away from her. And after about 10 feet, he let the boys go and they ran. So in her intercession, she saw what was happening in the spirit inside as we prayed. And Jesus showed up and he set them free and he restored them to run the race that he called them to run. And it's a matter of believing that what Jesus said he will do because he paid for it at the cross.